Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack Farmer. His name is Jimmy Korderas. His name is Justin LaBar. And this is the WWE Raw Wrestling Inc. after show. And have we got a show for you? We're talking street fights tonight. We're talking attacks backstage. And we're talking a lot of personal fights getting personal is what I'm trying to say here. But before we get into all that, folks, I got a new camera, but I didn't spend any time figuring out how to set it up. So I've got some weird lighting. I've got some stuff going on, but we're ready to go. I also forgot to hit go live. So that's why the countdown seems so short for a lot of people when we started the show. But Justin, so good to have you back, buddy.
Yeah, good to be back. It's weird. Last time I did any podcasting was a week ago with you fellas, and that's uncommon for me. But it's good to be back. It was a week of emotion, but did what we had to do, paid our respects, said our goodbyes, and I'm happy to be back in the ring for another swing. Back in the swing of things, 19 days away from Mania.
Yeah, I went and I filled in for you on the AEW show, and I thought it was going to be all fun and games, but I get in there with Jimmy and Issa, and Jimmy, he's punching his palm like this, when I show up, and Issa, she's flipping a quarter and chewing on a toothpick, and they're like, "Kid, you're in the wrong part of town."
I respectfully disagree because to play peacemaker, especially between you and Issa, I dressed for the occasion properly. Let's put it that way.
You did dress for the occasion properly, but yes. Long story short, I'm glad you're back, Justin. Jimmy, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm hanging in there and glad to see Justin back. I know it was a rough time for you, and our thoughts were with you the entire time, my friend. And glad the Triple J is back together again. Let's put it that way.
Yep. And speaking of getting back together, thank you to everyone who's getting back together in the chat, whether it be Layla Martinez, first time I've seen you in the chat, Ricky Zaldivar, Stephen Camp, Kenny, NYC Demon Diva rolling through. Always good to see you, Ash, Mike Riggs. Thank you guys for coming through. Like, comment, share, subscribe. You know the drill. Let's get into some news. Let's get into some spicy news. News that had Twitter astir, I would say. There are details about Bray Wyatt's recent absence from WWE programming and the Madison Square Garden live event. Much has been made about what's going on with Bray Wyatt. Rumors started swirling about his status in WWE after he didn't appear for a live event in New York City's famous Madison Square Garden this past Sunday night. Despite being advertised, Braun Strowman replaced Wyatt to take on LA Knight in a lights-out street fight. Fightful initially reported that Wyatt is dealing with a, quote, physical issue and a return timetable hasn't been determined. It was mentioned that props for Wyatt and Uncle Howdy characters haven't been sent to SmackDown shows over the past 2 weeks. With that said, the report also noted that there is no evidence to suggest rumors of unrest between Wyatt and WWE are true. Jimmy, you've been there when people can't make it. What is your take on the sudden disappearance of Bray Wyatt? Is it, hey, they say it's an injury, leave it at that, or do you think there's more to it?
There may be a little more to it. I don't doubt the fact that maybe there is an injury involved here because, stating that kind of makes sense. But at the same time, the return of Bray Wyatt hasn't resonated and clicked quite like we expected. In my opinion, I don't think at least the audience has resonated with it as much as I thought they might. Maybe I don't know what they were expecting. Maybe they were expecting something different. Maybe they were expecting the same, whatever it is. Something just doesn't seem to be clicking with Bray the way it was before the departure. Now, as far as not being on TV now and not being at the big telltale thing was the house show. Or the live event at Madison Square Garden. Not showing up for that to me tells me that there is an underlying issue that may be injury involved. I hope it's not. I hope it's just like a creative thing, like, card subject to change kind of thing. But at the same time, this guys kind of feel like there may be a physical issue.
Justin, it's pro wrestling. If someone gets hurt, I always assume that's always a possibility for people in pro wrestling. It does seem a little weird, the timing with kind of what was going on air. I know some people take that strong opinion. I've seen rumors again circulating, and I'm just trying to stir things up when I ask this, but people saying maybe Vince McMahon is back, and now Bray Wyatt is saying I'm unhappy, creative issues. Is this a smokescreen? What's your take in general? And obviously, we don't know anything, but
I don't think it's a creative thing. That's not to say that the creative could be, should be better, could be better or something like that. But I don't think that's what's going on here. I mean, remember, Bray Wyatt is a pro. He comes from a wrestling family. We know that when Vince was in fact for sure in charge, that there was creative struggle. We know now. And look at this. Remember when Bray had his last match at what was the WrestleMania, and then that was the last match he had, and then eventually he'd be released. I believe it was him, and Alexa was there with him. I want to say it was against Orton. That's correct. A couple manias ago, and it was like a weird, it wasn't what we expected, right? What I'm saying is, even if he's not agreeing with creative, we're 19 days out from Mania. They're not just going to abruptly, they're going to get to the show and they're going to get something out in the ring and something for the people to see. I do think there's something just physically going on. Now we know Bray has been dealing with a damaged finger for months now, and he worked through it. He's worked some house shows. He worked, of course, Rumble. You can work through a damaged finger. I'd probably speculate there's maybe something else, whether it's a injury related, whether it's I hope not, but a health scare or something. But for him to abruptly disappear as quick the way in the abrupt manner, that tells me it is something related to health. We might be sitting here next Monday, and a lot could change, hopefully for the better in 7 days, and he's okay to go, and we pick back up, or he's okay to be around enough, and Audible and Uncle Howdy's going to take the brunt of the physicality at Mania, but we're going to keep Bray on TV and whatever, so a lot can happen. But I don't buy into a lot of the speculation of, Vince was there in Boston, and now all of a sudden, I don't think that's it, because I don't think that they just pull somebody from TV like this close to Mania, especially when we've seen them tough it out and seen Bray tough it out in the same time frame leading up to Mania before. That said, I do think creative needs to be reevaluated. I think things are moving too slow for having 2 weekly shows, and Bray sometimes has little bits on both. I think things are moving too slow as it relates to that storytelling.
Yeah, it seems there's got to be more to it than just. I agree. I don't think it'll be just a situation of I'm unhappy with creative at this point. They would get through Mania and then cut things off, I think, if that was the only case. So regardless of what it is, I hope Bray Wyatt gets well soon. No matter what's going on with creative, you never want someone to be hurt or injured or have one of those things. So hopefully things work out for him. We got some news that, speaking of things working out, it sounds like things are going to be working out for Stacy Keibler. It appears she is on track to be announced as the next inductee in the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2023, according to PW Insider Elite. WWE and Keibler have been working on a deal to include her in this year's ceremony. Talks between the parties have been ongoing for weeks and are reported to be a 99% done deal. Justin, I feel like you can always argue who deserves to go in first versus later or whatever, but I feel like Stacy Keibler deserves a shot in this one. What say you?
Yeah, why not? I mean, here's somebody who, she entered in WCW in the late 90s and, coming off of being a Baltimore Ravens cheerleader. So really, kind of learning as she has to go, right? Learning on the job, I think. And then obviously she goes over to WWE after the sale and of WCW. And look, she became a memorable female talent. Granted, it was not in the time period that, yes, Trish and Lita, but it still was a time where it was much more, TNA and pillow fights and what have you. But she still carved out a spot for herself. And oh, by the way, she had a lot of still to this day has some crossover into Hollywood. So yeah, I don't think that I don't think anybody should deny her entry into the Hall of Fame for any reason.
Yeah, Jimmy, she's still Miss Hancock to me as an old school WCW fan, but Stacy Keibler, yes, maybe she doesn't have the matches that like Alita has or something like that, but still was such a big part of pro wrestling for a long time.
Absolutely. She was a huge personality, and she resonated with the audience. And when she came out, she got the reaction. You talk about just in a different way. Justin talks about the airport test. This is the entryway test. When you walk out and you listen to the crowd, especially the guys, they resonated. She resonated with the male population. Let's put it that way, and also a lot of the female population too. She was a universal talent, and she aligned herself with a lot of great talents too. As a second, so to speak, as their with the Dudleys, for example, and that sort of thing, and with Test and all those. So there is a spot for people who aren't necessarily strictly in-ring talents, if you know what I mean, like wrestlers, so to speak. So yeah, is she deserving? I think not only is she deserving, she earned it.
R.I.P. to Test. It was today is the anniversary of his death.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's too bad too.
Yeah.
But I do think we talk about what you do in the ring, and Jimmy, to your point, I always say this is a hall of fame. It's not a hall of in-ring talent. And you can do things in pro wrestling and still be a part of the story, whether or not you are doing moves in the ring or whether you're not actually good at wrestling in the ring. And I feel like Stacy Keibler was such a big part of so many things throughout her time in pro wrestling. She deserves it, I think.
Absolutely. Well said.
So as we get ready to get into the show again, please do us a favor, like, comment, share, subscribe. I keep saying it, I keep repeating it. It's an SEO thing. The bosses are watching us. They're saying, hey, guys, how many likes do you get? I don't know if that's their voice. I only talk to them via email, but I assume it's, guys, you got to get the likes. So give us some likes, comments, share, subscribes.
I prefer when I'm thinking of them, I prefer to think Billionaire Ted and those. How can we compete?
Yes, I like
tremendous.
I think of that's a good one. I think of the Seinfeld George
Steinbrenner.
That's it. Yeah. I imagine you just see the back of him talking.
Yeah.
But in any case, like, comment, share, subscribe. We appreciate it. Ricky Zaldivar, Dylan, Kenny in the chat, Baby Ice, Tuck Graph, Adam Staples, good to see you again. Night one. Jonathan Torres, Stephen Camp, Jeroy J, Bernie DC, Mike Riggs, Marquise Neal, Cisco 323 LA, Ethan Cruz, and Ricky Lewis, and also Error in the chat. I saw you were in here during the show, but I guess it gets a little late for you and you come back later. So if you do listen to the show later, shout out to you for always hanging out in the chat while Raw is on, as well as Grandma Daisy and Huffman Elite Training. Let's talk about this episode of Monday Night Raw, starting out with Edge calling out Finn Balor, and he says he's going to give Balor a Mania match, and it will be a Hell in a Cell. And Finn hints possibly at bringing out the Demon. They jump Edge, but are stopped by The Way. I'm calling him The Way. I don't care. We get a match, and there's a lot of action, fun moments with Judgment Day getting the win. Justin, this matchup, we've known it's been coming for a long time. Does the addition of Hell in a Cell and the Demon tease raise the bar for you on this one? Raise the LaBar for you on this one. I know it's an easy one. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, there you go. There you go. No, it does. It's, again, nice to see we don't have a Hell in a Cell premium live event that we just have to, we're obligated to throw matches inside of the cell. This feels like something. This feels like a year's culmination. So put it inside the cell, and obviously Edge laid it out, the things that have gone on with Beth and everything. So it warrants that. And then Finn teases. He says about his demons and hell, teasing that he could pull out the demon character, which he's been known to do for big premium live event matches. This would be the first time he's the Demon since he's been a heel in Judgment Day. And I think that has a whole intriguing spin. Whether he changes up the paint and goes from red and black to purple and black, or just, I always thought the Demon, when he was white meat babyface Finn Balor, and then he go into that special gear to be the Demon. I always thought the problem I had with that was the Demon was then so interesting that when he reverts back to being, and his plain clothes Finn Balor, it was kind of like meh. But maybe now with him being in this evil group, whether the dynamic's going to be better of him switching between the two, or maybe you're a little bit more demon-esque on the daily. I know it's a lot of makeup to do on TV day, but I'm intrigued is what I'm saying. I am intrigued by all aspects, the Hell in a Cell gimmick and the fact that we are going to see the first take of the demon as him in a heel Judgment Day group.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see the evil demon. It is kind of interesting to think the demon being a good guy when you think about the whole process, but he does have so much character. I agree with you. It's going to be fun to see him now try to see what he does with the demon. But Jimmy, overall, this opening segment, I thought this was a fun way to kick off Raw. You get a fun promo. You get the announcement of a big match. You get a fun matchup. The right guys get the win because they're the ones that you're heating up for Mania. This just felt like I wouldn't call it a home run because it wasn't the biggest and grandest thing in the world, but it was a nice double.
Yeah, I'd even go so far as to say maybe squeezed out into a triple because, it got the crowd lively and you heard them. They were with this completely. And like you said, you want to add some gravitas to this match. We kind of figured they were going to meet at WrestleMania, and you want to end this rivalry in a way that feels final, that feels like that they put the lid on it, so to speak. And what better way than in Hell in the Cell? And we know these guys can go physically in the ring, but they're also great storytellers, and incorporating that cell structure into that match and the story that these two guys can tell in there, especially with some of the other players involved that may get involved. I think there's a possibility that this match can steal one night of the show. And now you've got a different problem. When do you put this match on? Do you put this on the Saturday night so it doesn't take away from what the main event will likely be on Sunday night? Do you if you do put it on Saturday, does it take away from the main event on Saturday's thing? But that's a good problem to have when you have when you have to decide which one of these matches are we going to put on last because they're so intriguing.
What I love about this too is both guys are great, but both guys are very theatrical, and there's something theatrical about the cell. And so I think they're going to use that not just in a physical way, but I think they're going to tell some pretty cool visual stories. I love the spectacle of Mania, and I think that this plays right into those hands. And so even though this is a rivalry I feel like has been a little drug out, and through these shows, I'm probably going to be like, I'm ready for this to be over. I have a feeling at Mania, I'm going to say, this is incredible. I love this, So,
Jack, are you going to Mania?
I'm going to find a way into Mania. I have to figure out what I'm.
So you're not going to be on the podcast with us, is what you're saying?
I don't think so. We'll see. I might at the end of the show try to get in on my phone just because I'm going to be nuts about it. My voice is going to be gone. I'm like, guys, it's the coolest thing in the world.
That's why I said to Jimmy, I said, I'll do the podcast both nights and I'll do Raw. But I did it last year, but I made the mistake of my voice was shot by night 2 of Mania. So I have to double down on the tea and honey.
Yeah. So I talk about spectacle though with Mania, and our next big segment is the definition of spectacle and definition of big too. While we're at it, Omos and Brock Lesnar finally get face to face, and they start sizing each other up. See what I'm doing there with words? Sizing each other up. Big fella.
If I could interject here for a second, it felt more like face to chest.
I think it was face to chest. I mean, Jimmy, to that point, Omos manhandled Brock Lesnar. And I know we've seen Bobby Lashley push around Brock Lesnar a little bit, but this is the first time I've seen someone believably just push Brock around like he was a little kid.
Well, yes. And they did have that little hiccup going over the top, Brock going over the top rope, which poses a different question for me. And now because as we know, Omos is kind of like the rookie going into this match, and it's going to be up to Brock to kind of guide the storytelling and where this match is going to lead to. So it's going to be an interesting for me from that standpoint. But also, like you said, my goodness, it just like he put that hand over his face and it just covered it completely. And, we talked on a different podcast, myself and my good brother, Stripes Brian Hebner, about Andre the Giant, And every time a giant or a large man comes in, they're automatically compared to Andre. I don't want them to do that with Omos.
Mm-hmm.
Just let Omos be compared to Omos and what he can do, and hopefully keep it simple, stupid, as they say. You know what I mean? And I'm not calling Omos stupid. Don't, MVP, please.
I would never call a man that big
No.
stupid.
No, but if you keep it simple, the storytelling simple, they could tell a hell of a story. The monster versus the beast, and with Brock trying to get Omos up tonight, that told a story. There's so much there. It's just that they lost me a little bit with that little hiccup going over the top and just made me go, oh boy, I hope everything goes smoothly at Mania. And they, let's just say, walk through things prior.
Yeah, Justin, to that point, we got a super chat, and it plays right into what we're talking about from Matthew Tech saying, Brock questioning this Omos match after that botch. Justin, I have a feeling if there's any issues, Brock will make sure Omos learns what to do.
Well, Brock will definitely be vocal if he's got any worries or any tips or whatever. I think if anything, Brock and MVP and anybody else, whoever might have produced that segment, they might just say to Omos, just slow down, take it easy, just what Jimmy's saying is valid to those of us who are when we analyze X's and O's and get behind the curtain. It does make you worried. Okay, Omos is still very green. This is the biggest situation he's ever been in. As Jimmy said, let's hope this is not going to be a long match. Let's hope that they really walk through this match and that he feels comfortable and they feel comfortable that they're not putting too much on him to do. But that said, I think you can actually look at just your general viewer. They might not have looked at it and even knew, oh, that's a botch. They might have just looked at, oh, it's just a struggle of trying to get Brock freaking Lesnar out of the ring. Mm-hmm. So I'm not too worried over that. This is a keep it simple, stupid thing. It is okay. This week it was, just manhandling and getting Brock out of the ring. Next one, it's probably Brock's going to get even more physical. He's going to try to get the F5. He's not even going to be able to lift Omos, because that's the whole thing. We got to go into this with the attraction of, can Brock do what Brock normally does and execute against Omos? I'll say this. I know to some people on the internet, this is not intriguing. This looks like a dumpster fire that's waiting to happen. Brock got in that ring. He sold it with the facial expressions. The visual sold it of Brock at chest level with Omos and that Providence crowd with the holy S chants. Mm-hmm. They didn't have to do anything, just the visual. Yeah. And that's what it's all about. Yes, Omos is going to have to do his part, and a lot of it's going to be Brock having to make it as easy as possible for Omos, but that's why they're doing this. And this is, Brock's had a million matches with Roman Reigns. Brock's had, he's had a lot of, we've seen him against a lot of established guys in repeat. This is Brock, whether he wins or loses, even if he wins, this is Brock giving back and helping build to the future. So I'm still here for it. I'm still here to see it, because I think if it is executed properly, it's going to do a lot of good things.
I agree. This sold me big time on this match. Just the visual. Yeah. Like I said, we always talk about what WrestleMania is for and how you want to appeal to a bigger group of fans. I have friends that are big UFC guys, know who Brock is, but doesn't follow pro wrestling. And if I show them this clip, they're going to be all in on wanting to see this match, even if they know nothing about these guys. Because you're just like, yeah, what the heck is Brock going to do with a guy that big? Right. But I know what Brock's going to do. He's going to F5 him. I'm going to lose my mind when he does. Which is what it's all about.
You're muted, I think, there, Justin.
There we go. Sorry, I had the call, forgot to mute. To that point, Jack, I think they announced it last week. Daniel Cormier, the UFC fighter, I think he's hosting, or he's like leading the WrestleMania coverage. I think for ESPN. Mm-hmm. So so there's naturally Daniel Cormier is going to have a focus at some point in his coverage of Brock Lesnar's match. That's just an obvious. And so now you're plastering on ESPN the visual that we as wrestling fans just saw tonight, and we're given the holy crap chance. Now you're going to throw it out, like you said, Jack, to the masses, to just general people are going to go, oh my God, that's Brock Lesnar, and he's being towered by that guy.
Mm-hmm. Question though, when Brock finally does hit that F5 on Omos, has anyone ever kicked out of an F5?
Yeah,
I don't recall anybody, but
Roman's kicked out of a few.
He has?
Yeah, I think the F5 is at this point is like Taker's tombstone.
Okay.
And we know Kane is kicked out. Somebody's done it, but then it's just been done repeatedly to put them down. I don't, you know what I mean? I think.
Right. Okay. Just thinking, that's one story they could tell, him kicking out of the F5, which has only been done. Well, if you're comparing someone to an Undertaker and a Kane, and even a Roman at this point, who's the champion for.
If you're comparing someone to Undertaker, Kane, and Roman, you're in good company.
There you go.
You know who I think is good company is Cody Rhodes and LA Knight. We get a match between these guys, highly competitive. Cody Rhodes gets the win. My question to you, Jimmy, here. We knew Cody was winning this match. And before we get into the promo afterwards, I want to ask you, did LA Knight prove himself with this one? Did it feel like he belonged in the ring with the guy that's possibly going to dethrone Roman Reigns?
I think it did. And Cody, it needed to be somebody with some name value. And right now, yes, LA Knight is not quite elevated to the level where he could, or maybe in some people's eyes should be. But at the same time, this is a name that people have been looking forward to moving forward. And I don't think he lost any momentum in this match, and actually looked pretty good in this match. And if you go back and you think about the match we just saw, it was like, wow, that was a pretty good match. And again, to your point, did he lose anything in this? I don't think so, because going into it, not many people thought that he was going to win this match, but there were a few times where you questioned it, at least for a few seconds.
Yeah. And I think that LA Knight too is in a position where he's sort of in cruise control through Mania until they restart everything. But Justin, I want to talk to you about this post-match promo. He had lines. I thought line of the night was, I wear a tailored suit, not because I think I am somebody, but because I want to be somebody. And he officially called it April 2nd. He's going to be the champion. Of course, there's been a lot of great promos with Cody Rhodes building up to this, but this felt like the Cody Rhodes WrestleMania promo. How did you feel about this promo?
No, I think he said it. That's it. He's he's calling a shot. He just has and the crowd's there with him. The entrance is there. There's Cody chants during his match. There's there for the reaction of his wins. I mean, he's got it. And, obviously we will wait. We're still not quite close enough to make our official Mania predictions, but I know it would be a big deal to stop this, this reign that Roman Reigns is having, but getting a baby face in this kind of position is not something that just falls off of trees. And I could argue that if they don't pull the trigger at Mania, you might miss the window. And I mean, every week, Cody Rhodes, if there, who knows, if there is any debate going on in the creative room, if it's still in pencil, who's winning? If there's any debate, every week, Cody continues to campaign with his promos and the reaction he's getting of why you might just need to say you got to pull the trigger now.
Yeah, I agree. I would be shocked if he doesn't get the win. Just for funsies, Justin, what would you say the odds are he gets to? If WWE had their way and now we're gambling on matches, what do you say the odds are for Cody today if you put money in? You get 1-to-1 odds, 2-to-1 odds.
Yeah, I mean it's. I operate more like percentages. I mean, I'll say it's. I mean, I'm going to say it's probably a 75%. Yes, that he's taking it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Anything could happen, but I would be very shocked if Roman Reigns walks away with it. We talked. I had mentioned that I feel like LA Knight is sort of in cruise control until Mania, and then after Mania, he'll probably move on to whatever the next step is in his career. Same thing for these next two guys, Elias versus Bronson Reed. Reed gets the dominant win. Justin, I want to ask you this one. Elias and Boogs, would you rather see them become a tag team or have a feud?
I'd actually rather see them as a tag team. I think you have two interesting personalities. Elias, for whatever reason, they just have not. I mean, he had a great singles run. He kind of he had a great singles run with the Elias gimmick and the walk with Elias and the guitar being interrupted. And he had some. I mean, he's had a lot of big segments on big stages with big names: Cena, Taker, Jeff Jarrett, Kurt Angle. I mean, but they never really just followed through for whatever reason. And then Boogs, he's interesting in himself, but I'd rather put them as a tag team because I think they're going to have a better chance of getting higher up on the card as WWE continues to try to, enrich and add the depth of this tag division. They'd have a better shot there with their looks and their personalities. And I mean, look, they're both in great physical shape. They both stand out. They both have, Boogs played some guitar. I mean, there's a lot of synergy there to play with. I think they would get a lot more out of being a tag team and then seeing what that could blossom into versus trying to give me this feud of, one's taking notes of the other one, but he's losing. I think it's a feud that it doesn't even make a Mania card. You know what I mean? It would be on a pre-show if there was pre-show matches this year. So I would go tag team route. Absolutely.
Jimmy, Bronson Reed continues to roll on, continues to be undefeated. By the way, I was thinking about it. We got a lot of undefeated people on Raw. Cody's undefeated. Solo Sikoa's undefeated. We got a lot of folks who just aren't taking pins lately. Something's got to give eventually. But if you had the pencil, as they say, who would be Bronson Reed's first real feud? Who would you want? You do have the pencil. Who would be his first rivalry? Who would you like to see him have a program with?
That's an interesting question. Right now, like you said, he is being built up, and it looks like once the new season of I guess Raw, he's a Raw superstar, or post WrestleMania is when the new season begins. Looking, trying to think of someone who would be good for a nice rivalry, one that would be interesting and with some gravitas as opposed to what's going on now. Yes, Elias is a decent win for Bronson, but at the same time, another match where you didn't see Elias winning this one.
Right.
This was more like a glorified enhancement match. Man, that's a good question. Huh. I'm trying to think now.
If Bronson, he always gets the oohs and ahs when he hits that tsunami splash, but otherwise it's still quiet. If there was more time leading up to Mania, and if there's a little bit more glimmer of hope of people catching on to him, maybe you say, "Oh, Lashley needs an opponent. Wyatt can't go for whatever reason."
Right.
Maybe you go that route, but I think it's too quick to try to turn that around. But maybe, to your question, Jack, maybe the reset of who's Lashley's first storyline and opponent post Mania, maybe you have time to set something up there.
Yeah, and I saw somebody posted Sheamus on here. That is depending on if you want to keep Bronson Reed as a babyface or a heel. Why not? You can even match him up with Drew post Mania.
Yeah, I think the only thing he needs now is he needs to get on the mic a little bit more. We need to hear a little bit more who he is. We all know he's dominant. I think we're getting the idea of what he does in the ring, but I think we're all ready to see him or hear what he has to say.
Vignettes. Give me some vignettes.
What is he? Is he cool? Is he funny? Who is he?
He could still be a heel, but lean into the fact that this guy is a student of the game. This guy is a sit down in front of a VHS tape and studying big men, studying Bam Bam Bigelow, studying the Vader, the Agile. Give me some vignettes of this guy since he's a kid just wants to be the next agile big man killer. So you can still keep an edge to it, but I think that makes him more dangerous. And especially we've seen again since creative changes in the last year, they acknowledge history again. They acknowledge dates and history. For a while, that stuff was we only talk about the present. So I think that could be a great way to utilize what are new policies and lifted bans. Lean into that because he's one of the perfect guys to do it with.
I'm seeing Solo Sikoa. I'm seeing as well Lashley's beyond Reed. Well, you got to raise up Reed eventually. That's kind of the point.
Well, yeah. At this very moment, Lashley's beyond Reed. That's what I'm saying. You can't do it for Mania, but if you start doing some stuff to tell more Bronson's story, that could be a compelling opponent for him.
So as we move on, the Street Profits are giving Austin Theory a hard time about what happened with Cena, but Theory asks which one of them is the toughest, and Theory says it's not Tez, who is a big bag of jokes, and when it comes to the smoke, all Tez does is choke. That rhymes. What a fun little thing there. So Dawkins says he'll cook him tonight. We get a competitive one, but Theory gets the win, puts Dawkins in the STFU. Yeah, I still add the U when I talk about John Cena's move post-match until Tez runs out to break it up. Jimmy, this feels like a very simple, let's give Austin Theory some guys to work with while we kill time until Mania.
Absolutely. And it also maybe, like I like to say here sometimes, maybe plants a seed for the eventual breakup of the Street Profits. I know people are out there going, "Wow, they need tag teams. They need more tag teams." Yes, that's true. But at the same time, here's a team that showed Montez Ford can be a big singles competitor, and now Dawkins is proving that he can go as a singles guy as well. Now, despite the fact, as we say all the time, getting over without going over, I don't know if Dawkins so much as got over, but he proved that he can go in a singles match. So maybe this is a seed planted where he gets a little bit discouraged with his partner, getting more attention than him or something, or whatever the story plays down the line. But maybe this is a first little seed planted, or maybe second.
Justin, we've been talking about the eventual doom or split up of the Street Profits for a long time. I think it's because Montez is such a star. And again, Dawkins always proves himself. It seems like every time he gets the chance, and he's been getting fit lately. But is it possible that with groups like the New Day that have been a team, but then also done singles things, but remained a team, is it possible that the Street Profits just never break up, even if they do get singles glory?
Yeah, and I floated that idea that to your point about the New Day, that maybe you might say, look, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins both, as single stars, have a lot of charisma and a lot of support, and they work really well as baby faces in the ring. Let's just put them on two different shows. And they remained aligned. Obviously, they run into each other in the Rumble. They'll help each other out in the Rumble, this and that, but they go their separate way. It doesn't have to be the Shawn and Marty thing. So yeah, and I think look, obviously Theory can't lose a match between now and Mania. Obviously, he has to keep winning. Same with Cody. You have to keep winning. I think it sets it up for next week. Theory has a match against Montez next week. Look, Montez and Dawkins are over with the crowd. If Cena was hanging out, Cena would probably regularly be seen on TV with the Street Profits. It feels like that would be like a kumbaya kind of fun on-screen relationship. So I think have Theory versus Montez next week. He beats Montez. And if you wanted to use it, as Jimmy's saying with a seed, if you wanted to use it, you could then eventually have Dawkins and Ford, Dawkins going, "Oh, nice job there," and Ford going, "Hey, you didn't beat him either," and one of them going, "Well, I lasted 5 minutes long." You could make it a bit of a competitive thing if you wanted to go that route. But I think any which way, put Ford next week against Theory. It just makes sense.
Which, by the way, friends would do to each other if that was the case. You would try to find one way of how one was better than the other. But Justin, follow-up question: will the Street Profits have a match on WrestleMania?
That's a great question, because right now I can't see what that would be, and because I think we all pretty much kind of know the Usos as champs, what the Usos are probably going to do, what we think we know. And it seems like even though you have 2 nights, they are approaching this Mania, and I agree with this. We're not putting everybody on the card that's under contract. We're not going to have a battle royal just for the sake of having a battle royal. We're going to make this the best of the best of the best matches and stories we have to tell. I'm going to say no. That's not to say we don't see them have a backstage or have something. I'm going to say no to a match.
And maybe that's the cause of the eventual breakup down the road, where maybe Dawkins blames Ford. You know what? We didn't get a WrestleMania match this year because you were too busy being whatever, and they could start pointing fingers at each other, whatever, after the fact. Let's put it that way.
I agree with everything. It's crazy to me that we may not have the Street Profits at WrestleMania, but I agree with everything. But I think that just shows how stacked a lot of what's been going on in WWE has been. Speaking of all the stuff that's been stacked in WWE, one of the guys that's been stacking it is a fella that goes by the name of Paul Heyman. And he says that we've got problems with KO, and Cody can decide if he's a challenger or a problem. Jimmy, we got a super chat sitting here from Matthew Tech saying there's been a lot of talk or references to Roman Reigns almost getting to 1,000 days. I'm wondering if reaching that milestone is being debated creatively. From what you've seen, are things like milestones something that creative will care about enough to change plans at WrestleMania and things for, or is that something that fans think of more than the people backstage?
I'm sure it's been talked about. Let's put it that way. Is there a possibility of this happening? But at the same time, once you have a plan set in wrestling, nothing's set in stone.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it's set in, and even ink can be erased nowadays. But
it's never official until it gets on TV.
Exactly, until it happens. It actually happens. But I'm sure all the options have been weighed, and I know that people are. And I get what Matthew's trying to say, but at the same time, I think you, at the risk of losing an opportunity, you can't a different opportunity which could elevate, like Justin said earlier, Cody winning the title, let's say, from Roman Reigns. If he doesn't do it at Mania after what we're getting from this great story, then it kind of loses a little bit of its gravitas. If they have a rematch post WrestleMania and stuff like that, and he wins it there, it won't feel the same.
Right. Justin, anything to take away from this Paul Heyman promo? It was a good one. I don't know if we really added a whole lot, but any thoughts?
It was just to promote that Roman Reigns is on Raw next week, and that'll probably be the segment where I would think that'd be the segment where we get the first bit of physicality between them. But Jimmy, I'll ask you. Do you want physicality, or do you want the old school? They don't touch until Mania.
I'd rather, if they do touch, it would be on the go home show,
okay,
or something. But at the same time, I like the idea of them having as little physicality as possible leading into the match.
Yeah,
and this feels like one of those scenarios where Adam Pearce would send all hands on deck to keep them separated to make sure the money stays on WrestleMania.
Right.
So we move forward and we get the announcement that Ric Flair is going to be on next week to introduce the next Hall of Fame inductee. Justin, when I first saw this, I was thinking, well, it's got to be Batista. Their history with Evolution. Batista's been waiting for the chance. It's Hollywood. But now after the news today, doesn't Ric Flair have some history with Stacy Keibler too? I mean, it could be that could be the announcement.
I don't know all the women that Rick has a history with. I don't know. Yeah, like it's gonna be on the bump this Wednesday.
Knocked out of the park.
He does have history with Batista. I feel like Batista would have nothing against Ray, but he would have been announced before Ray. But maybe they announced Ray when they did because of what we're gonna see later. I don't know. I've seen other things, and maybe it's Lex Luger of trying to draw lines of connection to Rick. I don't know. I don't think Batista. I really think that they would have, even if they needed Ray to be announced this past Friday, which he was, to then line up to tonight's booking and then the subsequent weeks to follow, they could have just advertised Batista the week prior. They could have announced him the week prior. So I'm going to go with no, not Batista. I don't think it's in the right tone to have Rick announcing any woman other than his daughter, and she's not going in right now. So I'm going to go with somebody like Alex, or I'm trying to think of who else that he has a direct connection with. It's it's not going to be Arn Anderson while Arn's involved with AEW.
Is question to you guys? Sorry to interrupt you there, Justin. No, the question is Barry Windham in
I don't know.
the Hall of Fame, WWE Hall of Fame? I'm not sure.
I feel like Black Jacks are, but I don't know if that wouldn't have been
Lonza and his dad.
I think it is. So
yeah, I'm just because there is another, like you said, trying to make the connection with Flair and why Flair would,
Lex is the only one that I can really think of that's not in that. I mean, and I know that there was. I'm going to say Lex, and I know that for a long time, like Never, that's not important. I'm gonna go Lex. That's my guess. Lex.
Lex is a really good guess because you're right. It feels, and by the way, yeah, the chat corrected me and Justin, you did as well. It's the bump on Wednesday, not next week's show. But yeah, I feel like maybe Batista is kind of a big name to announce on the bump, with all due respect to the bump, but I feel like that's a Monday Night Raw or SmackDown announcement.
Yeah, if you want to announce if you want Rick to announce Batista, Ric Flair's on Raw next week. He's going to announce the next, the two-time Hall of Famer Ric Flair. It's going to announce the next person going to Hall of Fame. That's the Batista announcement you do.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Lex Luger's a good one. Should go in as well. A lot of people guessing the Great Muta as well as someone that could be mentioned, or that Ric Flair could induct as well.
I guess because he has a bit of a history with him and could educate those who are not familiar with him on the Great Muta. So
yeah, and he deserves to go in as well. I'd like to see that. So from one Hall of Famer to another, Rey Mysterio comes out and he's thanking us, and Dom comes out and says that Rey earned the honor at his expense. Dom complains he only got a standard BMW for his 16th birthday because his dad is a deadbeat. Dom challenges Rey to a match at Mania, but Rey says, nah, and he walks away, and we get no match. Justin, we're getting this match, right?
Yeah, I mean, inevitably, they've known this might have been an ink before anything else. They knew that they were going to have this. I think what's so intriguing, and we mentioned earlier, Kane and Undertaker, and Kane's freshly on my mind because of the A&E documentary biography yesterday. It took forever. It took like a 6-month build for Undertaker to finally say, yes, I'll fight my brother and we'll do it at WrestleMania. And it took Kane and Paul Bearer to dig up the Undertaker's parents and set the one coffin on fire, just crazy stuff, right? What is it going to take? What is Dom going to have to do or say to get Rey to snap and say, I'm going to fight you? That's what's so intriguing, is that this has been going on now, relatively speaking, for so long in WWE world, in WWE timeline. And Dom has attacked his father. He's done, he's domestic disturbance at the holiday. He's done all these things. What is he going to have to do or say to get Rey to snap? That's what's so intriguing to me at this point. And then the crowd is there. I mean, there is no piping in sound here. Dom comes out. It is "you suck" chants, and I mean the heat is there. So
yeah.
I'm here for it, but I am really intrigued in the next 19 days as to what Dom does that gets his father to break.
Jimmy, a lot of people in the chat are saying interrupt the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I think a lot of people are thinking that. I see you shaking your head no, and I think that'll lead to an answer to one of these questions, maybe both, but one. If the thing that breaks him is the Hall of Fame speech, isn't that a bit too close to WrestleMania to make that a Mania match if it's the night before? And two, what are your thoughts of them using the Hall of Fame as a storytelling device?
If anybody watched my Ref and Rant today, cheap plug, that is one thing I am really concerned about. Is Rey deserving? He's deserving. He's earned this honor. Yes, it's very rare when an active member of the roster is put into the WWE Hall of Fame. I just don't like them, if it's going in this direction, them using the Hall of Fame to further this angle. I want the Hall of Fame to be a completely separate entity, so to speak. Yes, it's part of the WWE umbrella and that sort of thing, but I don't want them to use the Hall of Fame to further storylines. Just let people get the honor and respect they deserve at the Hall of Fame. And I know people are out there going, yeah, but what great would it be if Dom interrupted his acceptance ceremony speech and whatever. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. No, keep that completely separate. Maybe you could do something after the Hall of Fame and you could show the video the next day during Mania. And this is what led to the match. This is what led to Rey saying yes. I don't know.
First off, Jimmy, I'm with you on the protection of the Hall of Fame. The WWE Hall of Fame already comes under enough fire of, well, what's the criteria? What gets you in? So I don't think that they would. I agree. I don't think they're going to stage an angle where Dom hits Ray with a chair from behind in the middle of his speech. I don't think they're going to do that. I do think, first off, the match has to be made prior to that. You need to give people, if you're trying to sell tickets, you're trying to sell subscriptions and everything, the match needs to be made more than 24 hours before the first night of Mania. It needs to be made at least by the go-home show 6 days prior. But I agree. If you're inducting Ray in the Hall of Fame, don't laugh at his career by you're putting him in now just to. You don't need to. This angle doesn't need it. We just said the heat's there. It doesn't need it. So if you're putting Ray in the Hall of Fame, let him actually be honored like all of his other peers have been. I will say this. I do agree. You do kayfabe it to the point of, yes, Ray's wife and his daughter and all should rightfully be there to see Ray get inducted and honored. I agree. Don't have Dom sitting with them. And I'd even be fine with if they do show Dom, even if Ray shouts out his family and thanks and makes a mention of Dom, he doesn't need to cut a whole Sunday, brother promo. He can just say, and to my son, who I love you, but you asked for this and you're going to get this and we're going to have a WrestleMania moment together. Something to that effect. And yeah, the camera could show Dom sitting somewhere completely different in the audience with the other locker room, sitting next to Rhea and completely not clapping, no selling, mean mugging. I think that's fine. Stay in the kayfabe of that. But I agree. Don't turn this into don't turn this into a promo that could have been done on SmackDown or Raw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think once you cross that line, then it makes everything in the Hall of Fame feel phony, because it is one of the few places that it feels like you get a lot of real from the wrestlers. And once you break that trust, you're never getting it again. And I think that once you do that, for the rest of time, we'll think that it's all. Yes. Justin, to your point, I know there's some question of, we question who goes in why, but once it becomes a storytelling device, you might as well just put it as a segment on Raw at that point. We got Kathy Kelly had a rough night tonight, guys. I want to pour one out for Kathy Kelly. She tried her darndest, but there was just not her fault, just wrestlers coming and going, interrupting her, getting crabby. One of these situations was earlier in the night. She's trying to talk to Miz, but Trish Stratus gets attacked by Damage Control. And then later in the night, Trish leaves the doctor's room saying if they wanted to divide and conquer, they should have finished the job. Jimmy, what I like about this is it allows the physicality without the legends having to get into the ring.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, it also painted Trish in a tough light, because sometimes, unfortunately, she doesn't get seen as someone who could sustain a lot of beating. This made her look a lot tougher. And now I'm just curious to see where this leads to with them in Damage Control. I want to see how far they go with this. Like, leading to WrestleMania, does Trish have a role at this year's WrestleMania? We already have some legends there, like Lita and some Hall of Famers, but will she be a part of WrestleMania as well? Is it maybe we get the rematch with Damage Control and Bayley gets to have her match with a Hall of Famer?
We'll have to see. Yeah.
And then the women are well represented throughout the entire weekend.
We'll have to see. Justin, what were your thoughts on these pairs of segments here? Do you think that it was just a simple keep this warm in between weeks, or do you think there's more to read into here? As the chat seems to be thinking maybe Trish turns to the dark side.
I think it was a keep warm. I don't see if Trish turns heel, then I mean, not to say that she couldn't or that she wouldn't be good for business. She's then got to stick around and she's got to follow it up, and we got to get a payoff. I don't know. I just think we're looking at a 6-man or 6-woman tag, right, at Mania. I don't think it's too complicated.
So speaking of Trish, because people are they're also saying Trish joins Damage Control. I'll say this, I would hate it if she joins Damage Control, because I consider it it's fake, or it's, what's the word I'm looking for? You have broken my trade. You can't beat someone up and then join their team. Like, once it gets physical, you can lie and you can cheat and do this kind of stuff. But once someone actually attacks someone else, they're enemies. You know, like a lot of people I've seen on Twitter saying, and not to jump ahead to bloodline stuff, but like maybe Jay just did this to get back in the good graces of the bloodline, and then will later join Sammy. No, he kicked him in the face. You don't. If you kick someone in the face, they're your enemy. You don't get to say, I was pretending. Yeah, once they're physical. So I would be very frustrated if that was all just a ruse.
Right.
We got another, just a real quick thoughts on this Hollywood commercial. John Cena and Rhea Ripley doing a Stranger Things tease. Justin, what I liked about this is I don't think in any other world would you see John Cena and Rhea Ripley interacting in any way. And even though they weren't actually in the room together, it's kind of cool to see them in a commercial together.
I felt like it was kind of like a vignette pushing Rhea Ripley.
Yeah.
I know it's a parody, but it kind of felt like this just was like we have the gimmick is we're parodying Hollywood and we get to just blatantly parody this, but it fits with Rhea. Like it made Rhea just more menacing and more Rhea, as I think that she's on the path to win this championship from Charlotte. That's kind of my takeaway from it.
Yeah, I think that Rhea Ripley's going to be such a big star here. But Jimmy, any thoughts on this one?
No, just guilty by association. You know, putting her on the screen with pairing her up with John Cena for this just speaks volumes. And I think you guys and Justin and Jack, you guys hit the nail on the head. I think this is a sign of things to come.
We got another Kathy Kelly segment gone bad. She's trying to talk to Seth Rollins about Logan Paul, but Miz shows up and he says Paul is going to be live next week, and Corbin comes in and he's just trying to get whatever he can get his hands on to be on the show. It leads to a match between him and Rollins, and Rollins beats up Corbin, even though the Miz tries to get involved. Jimmy, most of this episode was, I felt like, let's just keep things hot without actually giving away too much. And I feel like this did this in an entertaining way. What say you?
No, absolutely. Corbin having his issues, this bit of a losing streak that he's on, and he can't get back on track, and he's trying to find a way to get back on track is entertaining. Miz is always entertaining. And, Seth Rollins has now become de facto babyface because it almost feels like the fans turned him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just wanted to cheer him, and they are, and they've in a small little way, I think they've caught a little bit of lightning in a bottle here with Seth, and with this whole situation, and the Baron Corbin stuff is fun and entertaining. Let's put it that way.
Justin, this Rollins stuff, him becoming a fan favorite here. I've always liked this version of Seth Rollins, but what I like about him is that he's a good guy, but he hasn't really changed. He kind of acts exactly the same way. It's just people like him.
Yeah,
I think that's the perfect way to turn. You're being authentic to the character.
Yeah, no, that's true. Look, this is this match. The build to it, I don't like. It doesn't have me on the edge of my seat, but I'm intrigued by default in the match because I know what Seth Rollins can do in the ring. We've seen what Logan Paul and his limited matches can do, and it's so damn impressive. And he doesn't work the house show in Poughkeepsie. All the shows he works, the big stadium shows in front of 60,000 people, and he doesn't get shook. And he goes out there and he kills it. I know some people make an argument that there's guys or girls that are sitting in catering that don't have a spot on Mania but it's business, it's show business here. And he draws this guy's got 25 million Instagram followers. I mean, I'm really intrigued to see this match because I know that they are going to have at least one or two moments that are going to be viral. Oh my God, did you see that?
Yeah. And like he said, like Logan Paul said, don't be mad at me because I'm good at this. But yeah, I know there are people who are probably frustrated, like you said, about being stuck without a shot where he is getting that spot. But I always say, look, if Tom Cruise said, I want to take Jack's spot on the Wrestling Inc. podcast, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. I get it. I would replace me with him too if I could. So if you have someone with that kind of following and fame and they're good at what they do, what you gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
We get another Kathy Kelly moment. She was actually really even talking to Chad Gable, but Chad Gable kept coming by looking for his boy Otis and can't seem to find him until Ali gives him some hashtag positivity. He turns the corner and he sees Otis getting photos. This was, but must say, is sneakily becoming a favorite of mine when he said, "You broke the camera with your ick." And Mansois saying, "We're not cosmetically cleared." Justin, I feel like I don't even care how this plays out in wrestling. I just want to see these guys hanging out backstage, even if they never wrestle.
And that's part of the idea here. This is where the soap opera part of the genre comes in. This is a good example of we can either do this and build some characters, have some funny laughs, get some screen time to eventually have enough conflict going on to where we put something in the ring that has a little bit of interest to the fans, or we all chase in a conga line 24/7 title.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I look at this. And so for that, I'll take this over the other every time, because at least we're getting some entertainment versus the 24/7 conga line.
Yeah. Jimmy, any takeaways from this? These guys, they crack me up. This is such a fun pairing, all these guys. I guess, is Otis going to leave his boy Chad to be I'm already calling him Otis. Is Otis going to leave Alpha Academy? Are we breaking up Alpha Academy? Will Otis become a model? What's going on here?
And if it does, I'd be cool with it, because, like you guys said, it is entertaining. And that's exactly what this is. It's a variety show. You get a little bit of everything. You get some serious wrestling. You get some characters. You get some characters that are serious, some characters that are scary, some characters that are giants and beasts, and you get some comedy as well. And when the comedy is done right, look, I'm loving this so far. So hopefully this continues, and we see where it leads. Hey, stay tuned.
Yeah, I'm absolutely loving this. We also had Bianca Belair take on Chelsea Green. Shenanigans on the outside as expected, but the champ fights through and wins again. Post-match attack, but Asuka makes the save again. This time, Asuka has some fun with the title before drooling all over it, and Bianca seems a little more frustrated by the antics. Justin, this is another rivalry. I'd like your thought. I'd like your thoughts on it. I feel like I like all the pieces, but I feel like they're taking their time getting where we want to go.
Well, I agree, but I think that's kind of the corner that they might. Maybe some don't see it as a corner, but when you have a situation where you're doing baby versus baby, and Bianca and Asuka, there's only so much you can do, because one can't stab the other one in the back. You have to kind of keep them on an even playing field to still keep them both likable and fighting competitors, which is the risk of what you run into when you have the situation. So it is what it is. I kind of graded on a curve, keeping that in mind. I think the match will be, I'm sure the match will deliver, but I will say that because it is baby versus baby with those parameters, it kind of immediately locked it in that it's the number 2 women's match to me. It Rhea versus Charlotte, just going into things, is the number 1 women's match. Now, ask me after both nights of Mania which match is better. I'll give Asuka and Bianca a chance here to try to outshine. But I just that's the risk you run when you do a babyface versus a babyface build for a title match at Mania.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jimmy, any thoughts on this one? Are you hotter or colder for this match than you were last week after this week?
I hate to sound like I'm middling, but I'm still the same. Mm-hmm. They didn't entice me any more, but I'm not less interested in this match, which I guess in a way is a good thing. Yeah. But it's just, again, like Justin said, when you have two baby faces or people, two talents that are baby faces, and you haven't established who is the more aggressive of the two. Yes, Asuka comes out and she did her little thing, and she took the belt this time, danced with it a little, did her little gyration. It teased misting because it started to come out, the blue stuff, but it, and got on the title belt. And again, this is another wait and see. Maybe we'll see at Mania where this actually leads to, whether someone actually breaks the barrier and becomes a darn heel in this one.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I think that Asuka seems to be almost pushing that way, but this is where this time of year, it's super exciting and we all love it.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of sneaky dragging things out for a few weeks to get to Mania, though, for a lot of these things. And it's the nature of the beast, but I think it's an exciting time of the year. We let it slide. But we get to the end of the show. Earlier in the night, Kathy Kelly's talking to Kevin Owens, and he says he asked for help, but he never got it. Now everyone's asking for his help is the difference between what's been happening before, which I thought was a very cool line to use. But he says he does not want Cody's help. He says, Cody, stay in the back. Do not help me. And Cody gave him exactly what he asked for. Didn't help at all because it was a street fight. They went through tables. They went through chairs. The Usos eventually just knock out Kevin Owens, drag him back to the ring, and Solo gets the win. Justin, this is fun. I like this because the bad guys are all aligned. The good guys are in disarray, and that's every good superhero team movie.
This is exactly what you need when you're this many days and weeks out from Mania. KO doesn't want Cody's help. He doesn't want Sammy's help. He didn't get it, and the numbers game killed him tonight. We're setting up for, again, what we all think is eventually coming, which would be the Sammy KO versus Usos match, which I still will claim. I think it's got enough weight in the story that it could main event night one of Mania, given the story and given that the Usos have the title reign streak they have. I think it's there.
Yeah,
I'm banking on Rhea winning the world title, and that's a big moment. But I think you could start a show on that. Starting the show is as big as ending it anymore in Mania. So I think that could go there. But I think you could really end with the Usos and a KO Sammy. But the way they're getting there, yeah, they are really slow playing this, and this is what it's all about. Telling stories. This is what it's all about.
Yeah, Jimmy, I think to that moment when Jay hugged Sammy, and I totally popped, and it was a short-lived time, but you got to think that eventually that Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn hug is going to happen, and it's going to feel just as good, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a little different. And those out there who said when Jay hugged Sammy, oh, I saw the turn coming. Yeah, right. Anyway, I know everybody
right.
knew it was there. But when that eventual Kevin Owens, Sammy reunion hug happens, and it couldn't very well not happen until they defeat the Usos for the titles, and they're holding them up. They look at each other, and there's the embrace. You know what I mean? Going into the match, they're still kind of, side eyeing each other. Can I trust you? Will you be there for me? I know we were friends, but then once they complete the reunion, it'll be one of those moments. And like Justin said, you can make a case for this main eventing night one of WrestleMania. And to the point of Rhea defeating Charlotte to open up WrestleMania on night one, it's weird to say this, and I know people are going to say, well, what's the big deal? But having a heel champion close out a night of WrestleMania, it's a little different than having babyface team like that go over. So if you were to put that on first and have people go, ooh, what did I just see? If we saw this now, what's coming next? The two most important parts of the night, the how you start and how you end.
Yep.
I think also ending night one with this tag team match, you can end the show with what does this mean for the bloodline going into tomorrow? And then you have to wonder, what does that mean for Roman Reigns? How is he going to be when he shows up and all that? If I was putting money down today, I would say We get Hell in a Cell first night, match 1, and the tag team championships to main event night 1, and then the Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair to open night 2, and Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns after that, and Logan Paul closing out the show. I'm just joking. But no, but in any case, this was I thought this was and everyone in the chat, let me know your thoughts out of 10 for this episode. I'm going to give it, I feel like I've been giving a lot of 7s. I feel like this is a very predictable episode, yet very entertaining. It did everything it needed to do. It didn't necessarily rock the boat a lot, but everything felt very entertaining to me. Justin, what were your final thoughts, and where can the world find you online?
I gave it a 7.5. I've said this for years. When you're building a Mania, this type of show, they know where they want to be on the go-home show. They know where they want to be 5-6 days out. These type of shows are tricky because you might already be as far as you want to be, and you got to kind of like stall, for lack of a better term. Or we got to pick it up. We got to get the story there. These shows at this point out can be tricky. Overall, though, I think it's entertaining. And oh, by the way, and all the panic. Last week, Vince was in Boston. We think to see Cena. Haven't heard any mention of him tonight in Providence. Creative still seems like it's moving in the same direction as it has been the previous weeks. So let's all just relax on all the fear-mongering on social media for those who want to push a narrative. Just chill.
And if you want to chat about it, just chat about the mustache.
Yes.
At Justin LaBar. I'll be back Wednesday night for post Dynamite, and maybe Friday morning on Busted Open on Sirius XM, channel 156.
And Jimmy Korderas, where can the world find you, all the stuff you're working on, and what did you rate this episode?
I'm with you guys. I'm between a 7 and 7.5. I thought it was a good episode leading up to WrestleMania. We're a couple of weeks out, and this is where they need to be. They don't want to, hit that stride too early. If you know what I mean, you want to go into it full steam ahead. And as far as where you can find me on here Monday nights with Triple J talking Raw. You can find me here on Wednesday nights talking AEW Dynamite with Justin and Issa. And also you can catch me on the Reffing It Up podcast with my good brother in stripes, Brian Hepner. And this week we have our other good brother in stripes, Mike Chioda, will be joining us, and it's going to be an all referee edition, all stripes edition of
legendary
the
stripes.
And thank you. And of course, you can catch me daily on my Ref and Rants on all my social media platforms from Monday to Friday.
And real quick, Matthew Tech with a super chat here at the bell. Any predictions on major WrestleMania returns for this year? I feel like I don't think any big ones are going to come back this year. Do you guys think we're going to get a surprise at Mania?
I could see Stone Cold. I don't know if that's a surprise considering he came out of retirement, had a match last year, but I could see Stone Cold popping up and having a segment. I know we've talked about on this podcast previously offers made to him supposedly for a Brock match, offers made to him supposedly for a Roman match. Doesn't seem like either of those are happening. We talk about a guy who, I don't know. I know there's reports out there. I could certainly see Austin showing up, having a moment, having a segment, and I think that would be a very catchy moment to have a LA Knight. Yeah. Austin, what? Yeah. What? Yeah. What? I don't know.
That would be that. I would love to see that. Yeah, I guess I could see Stone Cold coming out and hitting someone with a stunner before the night's over. That makes sense to me. Jimmy, any? Do you think anyone's going to make a surprise return?
Nah.
I assume by surprise, I mean we don't know they're coming out until Mania is on.
Nah, I don't think so. I think Mania pretty much sells itself. And if you were going to have someone like, I know people say, well, what about The Rock? If you're going to have The Rock there, you put that out there ahead of time. That's not a surprise.
Yeah, I agree.
So anybody who would be a surprise would be someone maybe who hasn't been in WWE before. You never know. There's names out there. I don't want to put them out here and have people go, ooh, you know what I mean? But,
right.
There's some free agency out there. You never know who might. There's rumors of who might be coming to help Edge at Hell in a Cell and stuff like that. I'll leave that up to you guys to kind of mull over.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Well, you can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. I'm also going to be doing commentary for Santino Bros California Love on the GCW Collective WrestleMania weekend. We're kicking the whole show off. It's on March 30th. You can check it out on Fight TV if you're not here in Los Angeles. If you are visiting in LA, come to the show and say hello. I'd love to say, hey, thanks for coming. That'd be really cool. But I'd love to see you guys there. Everyone in the chat, Bernie DC, CM, Punk Satani, Phil, Mr. X, Dylan Matthews, the GIF King, Bernie DC, Matthew Tech, Adam Staples, Ricky Zaldivar, Killer of Demons 669, and everybody else. Appreciate you coming through, Bernie DC. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, copy the link, put it in your social media, send it to your friends and say, hey guys, like, comment, share, subscribe. That does it for us. And if you're listening now, have a good evening. If you're listening later, good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is.